Hello and welcome to Football League World TV. This morning we've got a Luton Town debate show in light of the news that Nathan Jones could be heading for the Kenilworth Road exit and joining Southampton in the Premier League. I'm your host Marcus Alley, and joining me is resident Luton Town fan on footballleagueworld.co.uk, Billy Mulley, and co-host of the Oak Road Hatter podcast. How are you doing this morning, Bill?
Yeah, I'm doing well, thank you. Yesterday was a manic day from any Luton fan perspective, and we now wait to see what sorts of results from Southampton speaking to Nathan Jones.
Yeah, it must have been a whole range of emotions going on over the weekend being a Luton Town fan. We're going to be touching on those next. So to kick off the show, I just wanted to get your initial reaction to when the news broke that Southampton were getting rid of Ralph Hasenhüttl. Was it a kind of approach that you were braced for, expecting Nathan Jones to see Premier League interest this season, or one that came as a bit of a surprise?
Yeah, it was. I guess it has to be said it was a little bit of a surprise, given I think looking at the way Southampton play, looking at the kind of personnel they have, they're a youthful squad. They're a side that evidently play a certain type of football, not something I really associated with Nathan Jones. So I guess in that respect, I was a little bit surprised. But when you're doing the job consistently that you've been doing at Luton, a team, we all know that sort of finances associated with the club. There's a lot of richer clubs in the division, and to constantly see the success that he has with us, it's been, I guess, a long time coming with firm interest coming in for him. He was quite high up on the odds with the Brighton job, other jobs as well. He's been, not necessarily linked with, but within the betting odds. So I think this kind of approach was coming. I just didn't think it would be Southampton, given the way they operate as a football club and being, I wouldn't say polar opposite, but there's a lot of differences to how Jones likes to operate as a manager, and how Southampton are pushing forward as a football club.
Yeah, definitely didn't seem like a natural fit, at least jumping off the page straight away. But of course, we may learn a lot more about that in the coming weeks and months. EFL to Premier League manager recruitment has been fairly few and far between in the last few seasons. Obviously, recently, Aston Villa getting rid of Steven Gerrard and then opting for a continental route and taking Unai Emery rather than, exploring some options in the EFL, as we're seeing Southampton doing. Using your head instead of your heart, would you see Nathan Jones as a good appointment for the Saints in what looks like potentially will be a relegation battle in the top flight this season?
Yeah, I think there's definitely pros and cons to Jones potentially going to Southampton. I mentioned sort of the style of football and sort of the more youthful approach. I think that's potentially a flaw in it all. I think Luton have got a few good youngsters pushing through, but I think Jones tends to opt for more experience in, battling away. He sort of likes the athleticism and physicality of players a little bit older than, we've got the likes of Elliot Thorpe, who went out on loan. Mendes Gomez didn't get too many opportunities. We've also got Louis Watson, who's shown good promise during the early stages of his Luton career. But I think the fact that, we've got players like Lansbury who know the league inside out, very experienced. He's the kind of manager that opts for experience over youth players. But I think going into a relegation battle against the odds, don't necessarily possess the finances of the other clubs around them. I think that's the kind of approach that Southampton are looking at here. And I do understand that. We've seen with Jones against the odds, when Luton are the underdogs, they seem to thrive. And I guess that's something that the kind of mentality he would bring in at Southampton. And I guess as well, I think you've got the January transfer window to look at things and assemble the squad that he wants. I do see there being a lot of scope for Jones going in there and being a success. I think Luton fans have maybe criticised his, Luton have played quite direct this season, but I don't think that shows that he's tactically not very flexible. Going through the divisions, League One, League Two, played very, very nice football, but meeting the demands of the Championship and, trying to bridge that gap from a financial perspective, we've gone a lot more direct. And I think that's, to me, shows tactical flexibility and something that I think he could bring to Southampton.
So in and amongst a lot of speculation in the last few days, rumours of a verbal agreement, Jones being the first choice at Southampton, Luton released a statement on the club's website yesterday saying that they had granted permission for Southampton to speak to Nathan Jones, but that will be taking place after tonight's match against Stoke City away from home. An interesting approach. I think sort of what we saw earlier in the season with Alex Neil definitely heading from Sunderland to Stoke City. Having a match in and amongst all that wasn't really prioritised. So yeah, an interesting approach from the club, potentially leading to a very emotional team talk before the game for Nathan Jones, if what we've read is to be believed. So yeah, just what did you make of that approach heading into tonight's match? Do you think it was a good call and something that could potentially galvanise the squad and the fan base heading to the Bet365 stadium?
Well, yeah, these typically go one of two ways. It could lead to a disastrous result, or, as you say there, it could galvanise the team, the playing personnel, and then they can go out and get a really positive result and a really, really important game as well at Stoke. Stoke typically have proved to be a stern test for Luton. I know we broke that last year, but they are a side that we've struggled to beat, and especially at their place. So going there, that's going to be a really, really important test. And it's really interesting to see Jones being there and expected to be there. I don't quite understand it. I think once talks enter this kind of stage, pull yourself away from it and focus on that. It's quite difficult for Jones to, contend with everything that's going on at the moment. This interest from Southampton, this, international break coming up. He'll be thinking about January. He would have had several meetings about January at Luton and how best to attack the top 6 positions. So yeah, I think it's something that, of course, with Jones as well, it's not going to be a decision. It's not going to be an easy decision to make overnight. So I do understand why he is there, but ultimately at the same time, it could be a real hindrance for Luton in their preparations.
So you say that you can see it going one of two ways. I think that's probably the common view on this sort of style of approach ahead of tonight's match. If you had to pick one way, do you think it will help or hinder the side taking on the Potters this evening?
I'm pessimistic about Luton, so I'm going to say it's going to be a real hindrance. I think, though, that how close Jones is to the squad, his passion, wears his heart on his sleeve. I think, if his mind's elsewhere and he can't show those levels of passion, I think that could be a bit of a hindrance for Luton tonight. But these are the kind of games that if you're a betting man, you steer very, very clear of, because you just can't predict how this will impact the Luton squads. We've got a good group of leaders. We've got younger players coming through as well in and around the squad. It's a squad that's capable of putting all this drama to one side and going out and putting in a very, very good performance. As it's 2 points away from the playoffs again, so they're in an excellent position. But ultimately, Jones is a massive, massive part of what Luton have done in recent years, and the fact he's so involved in a 90-minute match as well, I think just shows that it really could go either way. It could play out any possible outcome.
Yeah, so much context surrounding this fixture this evening in the Championship. Obviously, Jones being an ex-Stoke manager and a venture that he wasn't really able to succeed in. There could be some animosity from the Stoke supporters towards him after how unsuccessful that spell was. Just rewinding a little bit to the start of Nathan Jones's second spell at Luton Town, coming in after lockdown at the back end of the 2019-20 season, when the Hatters were probably favourites to suffer relegation back to League One. Of course, he ended up galvanising them and keeping them up in the second tier. And the rest is history, a mid-table finish, a playoff finish, and now threatening to put together another promotion push this season. I just wondered what you thought, what you think the potential impact of Jones leaving could be. even though it feels like when he first came in, had the wrong appointment been made, it would have likely resulted in relegation. It does feel now that the club are in a different place. It feels like there's a more secure structure in place. The squad is definitely in better shape to cope, even if Jones does depart. Do you see a promotion push continuing if he does exit?
Yeah, it's again a very, very difficult question. There's a lot of different arguments that you could throw here. Jones, last time he departed, Mick Harford took reign, and Mick Harford in at the helm created this real good feeling amongst the fan base, and they were able to continue what they had started. Went on a unbelievable winning run in League One and managed to secure promotion. But yeah, Luton are in a completely different position now that they've managed to, establish themselves as a good championship club. They play a certain way and are very effective at what they do. It's a different feeling now because as big as Jones has been for the club, I still think that Luton are in a position where they can cope with his potential departure. As long as, it's not a complete change of style. Luton have recruited in recent windows to suit a certain way of playing. So if they go and get, a Russell Martin type manager who plays possession-based football, then, you lose the very essence of what Luton are about at the moment, and you go against what the squad is assembled for. So, yeah, it comes down. I think Jones leaving will be a massive, massive negative given what he's done at this football club, but also provides that opportunity to bring someone in that maybe has a similar ideology, a similar way of playing, but ultimately will have fresh ideas to continue a promotion charge, because I think as influential, as important as Jones is, he's positioned this club in a very good way that he's not the only key to the lock. There's different ways Luton can go about and achieve something good this season. And yeah, I think there's definitely scope for someone to come in and continue the project.
Yeah, so in looking towards that potential replacement and decisions and conversations that will be had at the club over the next few days, potentially anyway, the last of a Nathan Jones replacement on a permanent basis, at least, was Graham Jones, coming from a big sort of coaching background in 2019-20. Didn't necessarily work out as supporters would have hoped, and as we touched on, potentially had Luton battling for their lives in the Championship. Could you see that kind of approach carrying on and taking someone maybe from left field with a largely coaching background? What direction can you see Luton going in terms of a replacement for Nathan Jones?
I think continuity is a big factor here. You want somebody that can continue Jones's project and not rip up the playbook and go completely different and a different style, a different ideology to what Nathan's installed at Luton. For me, Chris Cohen, it's going to be difficult to see. I don't know if he'll stay at Luton if Jones departs. I don't know if he'll go with him, but I think Chris Cohen has made some very, very impressive steps within his managerial career. He's somebody that obviously shadowed Jones for a while now and is integral. He's made really good progress at Luton. I think he's somebody that knows the team very well. He's very much respected with the Luton hierarchy and the personnel as well. 35 years old as well. It would represent a risk in that respect, but ultimately, if you're going for continuity, which I think is vital for Luton, he's the man to go for. There's other not candidates yet because they're yet to come out, but there's names thrown around sort of the Luton Twitter. Gary O'Neill, somebody that has the scope to continue a similar kind of project to Nathan Jones. There's also sort of Stephen Schumacher, which I think is a little bit, I don't think he's as attainable as some would think. Obviously, an excellent project at Plymouth. I don't know if he'd be able to be swayed and if Luton could attract him. But the kind of profile he is, plays very good football, but also can go direct. I think that's the key approach here, flexibility in playing styles. So there are some good names out there that Luton may be able to attract. It's also going to be very interesting because, with certain clubs, you're always linked with a similar kind of level of manager. But because of where Luton have come from in sort of recent seasons, last time Luton was sort of actively looking for a manager was between Nathan Jones and Graham Jones. And sort of you imagine the scope has widened massively when it comes to the potential managers that they could be able to attract now. So for me, continuity is key. Chris Cohen would be ideal to continue the project, but I don't know. I could see him following Nathan to Southampton if he is to depart.
Yeah, definitely going to be an exciting one to monitor, considering how sort of forward-thinking Luton have been as a club over the last few seasons. We're going to be touching back on Nathan Jones in the next section. So at the start of Nathan Jones's second spell at the club, having been to Stoke and been dismissed by their board in between his two spells at Kenilworth Road, there was a period of time that it took for Jones to win the fans back over. There was some sort of opposition to him coming in at the back end of that 2019-20 season, as we touched on earlier. Just wanted to get your thoughts personally. Would you feel some anger, some senses of betrayal, or any animosity towards Jones for taking the opportunity to leave for Southampton at this juncture?
No. I think there's a lot of differences compared to the last time he departed. Obviously, Luton were in a very, very good position in League One. Stoke seemed a sinking ship at the time. As a manager, your goal, your objective, your primary goal is to manage in the Premier League, and it's something that you can't really turn down. We've spoken before about British managers don't get too many opportunities unless they're a former player to pave their way into the Premier League. So I think this is a really, really good opportunity for him, and something that he deserves, something that most Luton fans would agree with that. You mentioned there there's a small percentage of Luton fans that have never forgiven Jones for departing and couldn't really get behind him during his stint here. So I think they'll still have something to say about his departure, expected departure. But yeah, it's a real interesting situation because Jones, he's very much deserving of this opportunity at this stage. And whilst there are arguments to be made that staying at Luton could be a better for his security, better for stability, with a 2027 contract, I think you've got to take this opportunity. If I was Nathan Jones, I think you've got to take that opportunity.
Yeah, all things considered, when you do take a step back and try and put your personal allegiances aside, I think if you put your feet in Nathan Jones's shoes at the moment, it definitely would be a difficult opportunity to turn down. So I've got two questions to round off today's show, Billy. The first one being, do you think that Nathan Jones' proposed move to Southampton will be confirmed in the next couple of days, at least after tonight's match against Stoke? Do you believe tonight will be his final match in charge of the Hatters for the time being, at least?
Yeah, I'm going to go, yes, I do think it will happen. I think it will happen between the Stoke and the weekend game against Rotherham. Again, I just mentioned there, I think if I was in his shoes and putting personal allegiances away, it would be something that you just have to take. Mentioned there's not too many opportunities. There may not be many opportunities past this where he'll get the opportunity to manage in the Premier League. And whilst all Luton fans would have hoped it would be with Luton, you can't really blame him for potentially going. So yeah, in that respect, I definitely think that Jones will be gone between tonight's fixture and Saturday's fixture against Rotherham. And yeah, it's a strange position it will be a strange position for Luton to be in. There'll be, I'm sure, plenty of candidates interested in the role. I think we've seen with Rotherham, when they were looking for a manager, they had 80 applications, and with a club aspiring to be in the top six, I wouldn't be surprised if there's, into triple figures of applications. I expect it to be longish process. I don't think they'll make a decision lightly. They know, I think the board know they got the Graham Jones decision wrong, but yeah, you can't really criticise the board, everything they've done in recent years. But I just do think that it will be a longer process, and whilst for me, Chris Cohen would be the ideal replacement, I think there'll be plenty of twists and turns, because I'm not too sure if he'll be attainable if he does go with Nathan Jones.
And given what's happened since the last time Luton Town were looking for a new manager, you must see them as in a strong position to kick on, even in a post Nathan Jones era.
Yeah, 100%. We strengthened massively during the summer. We've got, especially in forward positions, we've got some really exciting options. You think if Jones does go, the compensation that Luton will get for a 2027 contract will provide some funds for January as well, to address the central defensive position, potentially a holding midfielder as well. You also think that Jones has been very reluctant to use the Premier League loan market, and we've seen teams that use that market to bolster themselves a little bit more, who have gone on to do very well. So I think there'll be opportunity and scope for that to happen, and Luton to bolster competition levels and really attack those top 6 positions again. So yeah, I think there are positives to Jones departing, but ultimately there are far more negatives that I see. But yeah, that could be the pessimism kicking in again.
So there we have it. Plenty of reasons to be a little bit concerned about Nathan Jones leaving Luton, but also plenty of short-term and even long-term reasons to be looking to the future with rose-tinted glasses and feeling optimistic about where the Hatters can go from here. All that leaves me to say is thank you very much for joining me, Billy. Really enjoyed your insight on today's show. Please do drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you've enjoyed what you've seen this morning. But thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.